Hello, I think I'm live. Thanks for joining me. Obviously, over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing mystery cheese boxes for everyone. As part of the Big Cheese Weekender, I've been asked to put together a live tasting of the cheeses I've put in your box this week. So it's all the Big Cheese Weekender is essentially about COVID-19. Essentially came in. It really sort of destroyed the restaurant industry, temporarily of course, and all those cheeses that were going into the Michelin star restaurants, anywhere that's pretty good, basically stopped buying, of course, because no one could buy them from anywhere. So the idea is the cheese was stacked up in maturation rooms and things like that, and essentially nobody could get hold of it. So cheesemongers, cheese lovers from around the country have essentially all come together to try and do this Big Cheese Weekender, which is trying to put British cheese on the map, really help the artisan cheesemakers out, because it's been a real tough time for them. So what we did, we went to my maturation rooms at Cheese Plus, and we had a look at all the cheeses that were in there that were destined for Michelin star restaurants, and decided to give, for the first time ever, decided to give the public a go at a cheese that's been ripened for these specific people. So in your mystery cheese box, what you will find is, first and foremost, the thing that you could be most proud of is that you ate British cheese, or I ate British cheese. You can hang this with pride, because our cheese heritage is massively under fire at the moment, and it's a real scary time. So you buying these cheese boxes, going to delis, finding British cheese, wherever you can, has really helped people, and it's just amazing. So thank you first of all for doing that. The next thing you find in your box is your detailed tasting notes on all the cheeses that we'll be trying today. So you can do those with or without me, but usually these are pre-recorded, and obviously I've never done live before, so if anything goes wrong, just try not to laugh so much. So the first cheese that we're moving on to, we did a vote for people that bought multiple boxes to find out what their favourite cheeses were in terms of soft, hard and blue. The other two are from my maturation rooms that I thought would complement them pretty well and understand things that are pretty cool about it. So the first cheese that we have is an all-time favourite. It was voted the best soft cheese in the mystery boxes over the last 6 weeks, and that is Baron Bygod. I mean, I don't know if you can see that kind of from here. I'll try and get it there. But this is a beautiful cheese, unpasteurised, raw animal rennet. And that's the thing that you use to set the milk to begin making cheese. And it's a real traditional style cheese, and it's made in Suffolk by Johnny and Dulcie Crickmore. And this cheese, I mature myself to get it to that level that we always have ooziness. So, like, it's a proper scooper, proper scoopy cheese. And if we're looking at the way that we do the Academy of Cheese, which we'll talk more about in detail, we go through a few steps. And one of the first ones is use your eyes, look and see what you can see. So once you're having a look and you can see the cheese, you can see that there's a little bit of a bloomy rind on there if you've got your cheese in front of you. You can see that white mould is coming through, and then on the side is this kind of like browniness, which is where we've aged it a little bit beyond where you'd find in your local supermarkets. But we like cheese to be a bit more challenging and hit people a little bit more, so it's really important that we get this level, that this breakdown that's happening, and this ooziness that is coming through. One of the key indicators that we're looking at is the paste of the cheese. And the paste of the cheese, or the interior, is yellowy ivory, and that tells us one thing, the key clue, which is that it's cow's milk. So goat's cheese is usually white, sheep's cheeses are usually white, and that's basically engraft this carotene, which is an orange kind of tinge. Add it to milk and it kind of makes this yellow ivory kind of style thing going on. So yeah, we can identify that it's a cow's milk, and we can process that and think this is what the cheese is going to taste a bit more. The second step is now allow me to just sort of cut up the cheese and probably scoop, like I was saying actually. I've got my lovely girlfriend who's helping me out with all the questions that are coming through, because we haven't quite managed that yet. Hi to Academy of Cheese, an amazing institution that's been set up just to teach people more about cheese. Just like you logging in now, you should Google Tracy, or oh, that's just dropped off. Should Google Academy of Cheese and look at their courses, and it is amazing. You can go level 1, level 2, all the way to Master of Cheese, which hasn't been released yet, but it's going to be a really exciting time for you to get involved in that. You can come and learn with me or many other awesome cheesemakers and learners in the UK. So let's get down to the cheese. A nice bit oozy, just kind of like dripped off, and if you smell it, it's just really fresh, but it's got some deepness to it. It's a bit mushroomy, kind of. That's what I'm getting from it. The biscuit is actually overpowering it, to be fair. Which is the biscuits from Artisan Cheese Company, and they do great biscuits. And yeah, it's just got some depth to it. So you know by the colour and the smells that you're going to be in for something really interesting. So let's just have a quick taste, and that's really important. So when we're tasting, if I go out, and then that is a beautiful cheese. The salt level is a bit higher, which is nice, and it just begins rolling into these beautiful cabbagey, mushroomy kind of flavours. I mean, Barry and By God, Johnny and Dulcie Crickmore have done an amazing job with this cheese. It's on the edge of challenging, which is quite nice where I like it. And essentially what we do, Academy of Cheese, I will get points of this for Tracy, we'd look at 5 simple taste flavours. So essentially you've got savoury, sweet, salty and acidic and bitter. The bitterness isn't really there at all. The savoury, absolute bucket loads of it. So we're getting like, there's a bit of brothiness in there. The Brussels are coming through. There's a nice bit of the usual dairy sweetness that's there. And the saltiness is quite high, but that saltiness isn't like table salt. It's kind of like mineral and refined salt. So a really beautiful cheese for us to start off with. So the next cheese that we'll move on to is the second cheese, which was voted our favourite hardest cheese, which was Lincolnshire Poacher. Which, if you haven't heard of Lincolnshire Poacher, you haven't lived, and you need to go to your deli right now and find out about it, because they're responsible for the renaissance of British artisan cheese. I can see we have a question in from Anna, which is about how do you age cheeses and why. So we've got our purpose-built maturation rooms, which look after the selective pressure. So you've got humidity, temperature, really important, time, and physical aspects of turning and brushing. And we aimed those cheeses specifically because of why is kind of like why you would want your steak to be medium rare or really well burnt. You know, the cheeses come into us and they're perfect for most people, but when you want to refine as an affineur, to refine, you want to be really kind of stretching that out and making it something really special to put in front of people. So we take it in and we look at it, we identify our customer bases, and we say, hey, you know, like, this would be really good for Midsummer House, this would be really good for Alex at Vanderlaar. You know, that's the beauty of artisan cheese, tweaking and twisting it so it can be absolute perfection. I hope that answers your question, Anna. So back to Poacher. So we're looking at the colour of it. Once again, visual straight into the interior. We're seeing yellow, cow's milk, right? You know, so Lincolnshire Poacher is made by Simon and Tim Jones. I think it was in 1992 that a gentleman came along, maybe Dougal Campbell, and he had a sort of a truckload of rennet, I think it was in a bottle, and said, you know, go ahead and let's start this. And essentially, Lincolnshire Poacher tastes like a cheddar, appears like a cheddar, but it's more like an Alpine style as well. So essentially you've got Alpine style cheese, and that's because they heat the milk higher than most cheddars would usually do that. But at the start as well, they still do the cheddaring and piling. So it's got those elements that you would expect from a cheddar. Let's have a smell. Really fresh, grassy. I mean, it smells so Moorish. You kind of you just want to And when you eat, you really want to chew. I hate the term, but it's kind of like masticate. So you really get the cheese moving around all your tongue, all those parts of your palate to understand what's going on. This cheese is quite a little bit dry, That's not in a negative way. Sometimes drying allows other flavours to come out. The flavour, you've got that signature cheddary, acidic tang. And then in this batch, which when we went to see Tim on his farm a few months ago, we selected this batch purely because, maybe I'm a fool for savoury actually, because the savoury element is just absolutely massive, you know, and that's really nice in a cheddar. That complements these two beautifully. They're kind of running alongside with one another, not overpowering, just working really well. The next cheese we have is a sheep's cheese. So visual again, if we take a look at the cheese, this one is actually slightly more ivory in colour, but it's got more yellow kind of going on within the middle. So you know, and you can indicate that it's a sheep's cheese. One of the cool things about the sheep rustler, which is made down in Somerset by White Lake Cheesers, Roger, Peter Humphreys, who I don't think it is actually at the dairy anymore, made this cheese, and they have this beautiful rind on it, this bright yellow. I think the French call it the yellow flower, and that rind is just like the mark of an amazing cheesemaker. And it passes off loads of flavours, and I think I was reading some research on it, and essentially it's more nutty and caramel, and we're pushing some mushroom kind of flavours. So let's just have a little try. The aroma you're getting, the caramel is quite strong in this one, in the word if I was thinking about it. You always want to eat nose to rind. Some people don't like rind. The rinds on most of these cheese are edible. I really like to eat the rinds because they kind of taste of the area, you know, where they lived for so long. You know, I think this is matured for 3 to 4 months. So let's have a taste. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's so delicate. It's a nice come down from these big flavours, kind of easing into a gentle scenario, and it's got these really nice kind of caramels that are going on with it, which is quite strong, and then this kind of intertwined in this freshness and this sheepy flavour, which is just stunning. Yeah, I really like that at the moment. Really, I think it won Supreme Champion at British Cheese Awards in 2017 and 2018, something like that. And there's a reason for it, because it's just phenomenal. So what is rennet? So from Julia, rennet is essentially, you can get it in powdered or liquid form. It goes in the milk, you wait, and it sets like a jelly. And then you cut those up into little cubes, and then you put them in a mould, and it kind of all drains out. And that's the beginning building blocks of starting to make cheese. Right? But really big fan of sheep rustler. Phenomenal pecorino. It's kind of pecorino or Basque region kind of people, Manchego kind of style, but real tribute to British cheese, taking on an Italian style and kind of just absolutely nailing it. Sheep's cheeses, predominantly in the past, Neolithic times, we were eating more sheep's cheese than ever. I think everyone thinks British cheese, cow, but sheep's were just far more arable kind of animals. You had so much more to get out of them. You had the milk, you could shave the animals, and obviously do use their fur for wool. And Holly's got another question, which is cheese made from the same milk as drinking milk? Yeah, I mean, it's the same. So normally they kind of go into a big vat. Some of that milk is pasteurised and not pasteurised, so that will be shipped off to the big supermarkets. And then the other might be used to mature cheese. Speaking about Baron Bygod, they've got a milk dispenser on their farm. And the milk dispenser essentially is raw milk. People can come in and buy it. And it's just like an amazing thing that people have done, actually. And it's really good for people to do that, you know. So the next cheese that we have is one of my favourites. So out of the blues that we've had, Cropwell Bishop was voted the best. Now, I think a lot of people talk about Colston, talk about how great they are, but Cropwell this year are really coming out of the gates for me. They're doing some phenomenal cheeses. And the bluing in this cheese, it's almost black. It's like ivory, ebony kind of colour, which is phenomenal. So if you imagine this cheese in a round, when you pop your starter cultures in is what you kind of kick the cheese off to kind of become what it needs to become. essentially, you know, this cheese is started with like a penicillin Roquefort, which Roquefort, you'd know is a blue cheese. And essentially, after a few weeks, they draw these ions, these needles into the cheese, and that will allow the cheese to oxidize and begin to turn blue, which is pretty phenomenal, you know. Keith, the famous Keith from Good Food, who done an amazing write-up, has been an amazing supporter for British cheese. So well done, Keith, in the chat. Perry is a great accompaniment to cheese. Oh, thanks. I didn't quite read that. Thanks. Can you freeze cheese? Now, this is a thing. You can be a cheese snob and be like, oh, you shouldn't have it, and you know, you shouldn't freeze cheese. But freeze cheese for cooking later. Do not waste it. Buy it if you don't feel like eating it, which is crazy. Then, you know, freeze your cheese down and use it in a tarty flet or something like that. Holly with another question. How long do cheeses sit before they mature? Variable. When they're ready, then you know, patience is key, and that's the real important thing, that you keep the maturity kind of going through so they develop these flavours. So essentially, the rinds on the cheeses let out these little tendrils that kind of go into the cheese, and then they kind of like kick out. Don't do that again. Kick out little amino acids, and they're the building blocks of all these complex flavors that you're getting. If you're thinking about it, you're starting from one product, which essentially is milk, dairy. We all know what milk tastes like, and then it's just incredible. It changes into brothy flavors and other things, and it's just really cool. So that's how long we mature cheese. It's variable. It's variable. 6 weeks. This one is about 15 months, 4 months. You know, it kind of completely varies. You know. Yes, Meredith. I will post the names of each cheese in the chat when I get 5. I'll make sure they're in there. But just for you, I'll review Baron Bygod, Poacher, Lincolnshire, Sheep Rustler from White Lake, Shropshire Blue from Cropwell Bishop, and Ogleshield, but we'll move on to that in a sec. So once again, we're having a look at the cheese. Obviously this orange indicates that it's something different. Annatto is a South American colouring that comes from a plant, which goes into the milk and changes the colour of the milk to make it look more appealing. Now, we've had Cropwell Bishop just there, Stilton, but we haven't had Shropshire, so I thought the variant would be quite good for people who, lovely people who keep on ordering from me. How long should you leave cheese before serving? Get it up to room temperature. I don't know how hot your house is, but I took these out maybe about half an hour. It's quite hot in here. It's been a lovely day. So that's the best kind of advice I can give you, really. You know, 30 minutes, an hour. Good restaurants have them out for a very long time, all day pretty much. So thanks for the question, Gemma and Rachel. Shropshire Blue. So we've seen the colour, annatto flavouring. Smell is it's got this penicillin bitterness kind of that I only can recognise from having a paracetamol and things like that. So let's give it a taste. Texture, beautiful. Really soft, unbelievably soft. It's like immediately gone to liquid, which is so beautiful, and in these amazing notes coming through. The salt balance is absolutely perfect. The savoury's running through. The minerality of the salt is incredible. This, if you're lucky enough to have got your hands on the cheese board, this is a real beautiful example of Cropwell Bishop, and that is an amazing blue. It's an amazing blue. I've got a few people asking what badges do I have on my apron. So it's Dawny. So essentially we have level 1 Academy of Cheese, which you can Google online, Academy of Cheese, and they'll come up. You can come and learn with us at Cheese Plus, or you can learn with anyone else in the country. Tracy will help you out and find you the right people. In terms of, this is level 2, so you can only go up to level 2 at the moment. So we could argue that there's a lot of us now, but we're the highest qualified in the country for this. In terms of these ones, these are the World Cheese Judge Awards, which are just phenomenal. They're put on by the Guild of Fine Food, and they do such a remarkable job. It's beautiful. Loads of cheese lovers from around the world, and specifically the country, travel out to Bergen in Norway. Was 2 years ago, which was my first time there, and last year the beautiful Bergamo. and they just have such a great time together, and everyone just kind of really gets on, enjoys their cheese. I mean, it's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel, really, because you've got so many amazing people that are so passionate about cheese. So they're my badges. Check out the Academy of Cheese online, an amazing institution, and I think we all want to learn a little bit more about cheese. I'm just having a look at a few questions, if we move on to our next cheese, this one, I've always done a last one, which is a little bit of like the kind of the side kind of cheese. I mean, blue should always sit at the end, but this cheese is one of my favourites, which is Ogleshield, and it was developed by Jamie Montgomery, who is an amazing man, so welcoming and just a lovely, lovely guy. Made this cheese, and with the help of Neil Yard, developed it, and Bill Oglethorpe, who's at Capocasing in Bermondsey Spa, who's also an amazing guy. Capocasing is the protein to clot milk, if anyone wondered where that name came from. And he came out with a new way of washing this cheese, which is pretty amazing, and it just creates a really nice flavour. Now, the reason why Ogleshield is just such an epic cheese is because if you went to any kind of market, borough market, had an amazing toasty, more than likely Ogleshield would be in there. And that's purely because you're getting that cheddariness that you need in a toasty. And you're also getting this like phenomenal melt capacity. So essentially, this is a wash rind cheese. They wash it, and if you imagine washing a cheese, essentially you're locking in more of that moisture, and moisture is really key in melting cheese. So this, in comparison to its counterparts, Poacher, quite crumbly, still great to melt with other cheese, and Ogleshield is a little bit more pliant. And that's the kind of water content in there. So if you imagine all these things that need to melt down, they're surrounded by water, and that makes a better melting cheese. This cheese is also amazing to taste. So we have a look again around the outside, and we see that it's a yellow paste, so cow. And then we have a little look at the rind, and it's got this kind of orangey rind, which is really specific in cheeses which have been washed with a brine or something like that. And that's yeast and moulds all having a good time and kind of kicking out kind of thing. So essentially this cheese has been washed and the moisture is kept in. The smell is a bit pongy, and that's what comes with really, wash rind cheeses. You get that quite a lot. So, so let's just have a taste. Really kind of pliant texture. Once again, a really nice gentle cheese. I'd advise probably not eating these together. I'll put them out. I always like to put the kind of the sideball kind of at the end, just so people recognise it. But the blue has really taken hold of this cheese ball now. It's very strong, and it's got some really nice kind of nutty light notes to it, which is beautiful. And I mean, this is an amazing cheese. This is British ingenuity. The French use a cheese called raclette. We call this the British raclette, a cheese plus, just because it's a great cheese for raclette. So really great cheese, really great cheese. So I'll just have a quick look at some of your questions. Gemma, what's your best tip for creating a cheese board? It's really difficult to actually answer that question. Because it kind of takes years of skill and practice. No, it doesn't at all. I would advise, seek out your local deli, go see those cheesemongers and let them advise you. In terms of portioning, you want 20 to 30 grams per person, so on each board. And you really want to be going with soft, hard, blue. They're the standards, they're the ones that you want. And there may be a few sideballs in there, like the sheep's milk cheese, or maybe something quite unusual. And kind of that's it. And when we have a look at the Academy of Cheese structured way to tasting, the way I kind of work it out, that all these elements, the simple flavours that we're talking about, savoury, sweet, salty, acidity, bitter, you kind of want to be levelling each of these cheeses and saying, do you know what, this cheese board is missing a little bit of acidity or needs more savoury. and you kind of want to be knocking those up in charts. And when you're low down on maybe, let's say, acidity, you want a fresh young goat's cheese, which has like that strong lemony acidity to cut through most things. Which, they're my best tips, but go see your local deli, go and see them and then ask them about British artisan cheese, you know. Why do some people use pasteurised milk and others use unpasteurised? From Julie. So it's a mixed question, Julia, sorry. It's a mixed question. So pasteurised cheese is considered extremely safe for women that are pregnant, purely because you've got this battle which comes into raw milk, which is potential harmful pathogens. You don't need to worry about that, because all the cheese that we receive, the milk is tested on site. If it hasn't got a pathogen in, it kind of moves through. But the government guidelines state that unpasteurised cheese is potentially dangerous to pregnant women. So why take a risk? There's plenty of lovely pasteurised cheeses. In my opinion, raw milk is the way to get to the authentic side of the farm. You know, really get there and understand the different balance that people have, you know, which is phenomenal. So, yeah, so hopefully that answered your questions. Keith, again, the poacher knuckle duster is off the scale at the moment. Sorry, I'm getting this right, whiteboard. You can now get it with home delivery. Now, knuckle duster, which is a 3-year-old poacher, essentially was kind of like an under-the-counter thing that you would have to seek out Tim, buy him a few drinks, and work things out from there. Yeah, so essentially, yeah, knuckle duster is an amazing cheese and a really nice one to highly recommended. Really strong anchovy flavour. So sorry, it seems like the stream is jittering out, and I'm just checking if everything's okay. So I've got 3 minutes to go, and I think I want to talk a little bit more about the British Cheese Weekender and how amazing you guys all are for turning up and supporting us and supporting the industry. British cheese heritage is something we all should cherish, and we should really look after our artisan cheese supplier. And you guys have come out in your masses to buy my mystery cheese box, go see your local delis and get something pretty you know, incredible. You know, so go on Twitter, go on social media, hashtag British Cheese Weekender, post your photos of the video, check us out. We're on Twitter, Instagram at Cheese Plus More. Pretty much search us and we'll come up. If you want help finding some cheeses which are local to us, just give us a call or drop us an email. We really want to help this kind of industry be there at the end of this, and that's really important to us. It really is. Meredith has a question: is it possible to further mature your cheeses at the home? Yeah, you can do. You kind of got less hold of these selective pressures that we're talking about. But a good rule is that if your cheese is ripe and you don't want it to go any further, then a good thing to do is put it in the cold part of your fridge. If you want it to go a bit further, put it in the warm part of your fridge. They're basic things, and weirdly, Meredith, you're probably doing this at home. Bringing the cheese out just before serving it is potentially my form of maturation. You know, you're really opening up that cheese and you're making it better, you know. So yeah, thanks for the question, Meredith. Really appreciate it. So up next, I think we've got like 2 minutes to go. You want to go over and check out the legendary, the awesome cheese guru that is Patrick Mcwigan, who's amazing at talking about cheese and amazing for supporting British cheese, and it's pretty incredible really that people are actually doing this and getting involved, and Patrick is a really key member in this kind of thing. So he's doing cheese and wine, so quickly run to your fridge now, pull out that bottle of champagne or anything that you have, and head over to his channel. He's doing it on Zoom. I'm going to leave a page up after this which gives you his details to his Twitter and his Instagram, so you can find out where he is, you know. I've got another question but I can't quite see it, but I think we'll just leave it there, and you can just message me on social media and I'll be on there watching all the good cheese news. So things to check out: Academy of Cheese, Google search that, learn more about cheese. British Cheese Weekender, get involved, find out where your local deli is, Ask them, how can I buy more British cheese? And finally, switch over, go find Patrick Mcwigan, who's an amazing cheese guy, also amazing at drinking, so cheese and wine pairing is just superb. And for him, yeah, they're going to be on Zoom and it's going to be something really good. Tune in for the rest of the week. We've got one more day to go and some great things coming on the evening. Thank you so much for watching me. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate your support for our mystery cheese boxes, and I hope this has been enjoyable. It's been a challenge and a bit worrying, but it's perfect. So thanks, eat more British cheese, and